Aeons ago, brothers from outer space, under the spiritual guidance of the masters of wisdom, the creators of the universe, came to Earth and settled in the core of the planet. Their task was to prepare the surface of the planet for the development of higher forms of biological life and for the reincarnation of souls destroyed in the atomic explosion which had shattered the planet Melona, Lucifer, located between Jupiter and Mars. These higher supralight bodies, completed humans, knew the divine hierarchy's mysteries of creation. They were aware of the planet's inner logos, whose consciousness gave birth to unique soul groups, each able to incarnate at different times. Depending on their specific stage of development in each period, human souls incarnate in order to further their growth. They choose very specific life experiences through thousands of incarnations until they reach completion as human beings. Initially, the fallen gods lived for a few thousand years, but after Atlantis, to mere hundreds of years. For example, Methuselah reached 960 years of age. Yet the demigods had one consolation. They had paranormal abilities far more advanced than those of ordinary mortals. Through their higher vibrating chakras and energy centers in the physical body, they were still able to make use of their 5 higher senses. They were clairvoyant, clairaudient, clear-feeling, clear-touching, and clear-smelling. Furthermore, they had the gift of magnetism, which they were able to use to heal people. Their knowledge of sophisticated technologies rested in their subconscious. Their extrasensory gifts made them the spiritual guides of the outer world. The prophets, high priests, and magicians of all times have been the souls of fallen gods. Yet all this was part of the Creator's plan, and these souls have made a voluntary sacrifice for the maturing humankind in order to provide it with a light on its path to becoming human and to the Godly Father. Once upon a time, there existed on Earth a high culture whose people were filled with the Spirit and knew all the mysteries of creation. These secrets of creation were revealed to them because they lived in harmony with the laws. When human beings choose to live in wholeness and in harmony with the purpose of their spirit and soul, this choice opens the doors to a higher perception, and the universal spirit offers the truth of life through divine inspiration. The result is global enlightenment, and civilization develops. In Atlantis lived the 4th root race, which had reached the pinnacle of its development. Its divinely inspired scientists had acquired the secrets of universal energy. At that time, scientists and divinely inspired masters worked together to draw harmonic technologies out of the spiritual reservoir of the universal Akashic records. For a long time, power and love were united. Human beings did not have an ego separate from the higher self. Humankind experienced a blossoming in all branches of science and in space exploration. Almost all illnesses were curable, and people often lived to a very old age. They had contact with other planets and with outer space human and spiritual beings. The human race living at that time possessed the universal understanding that the planet is a biological living being, and that the planet is a body and its people the cells of that body. People knew neither ownership nor egoism, and they kept their planetary body, the Earth, clean, because they knew that they only had one Earth in common. They could neither sell nor divide it, nor were they allowed to market its water, air, or resources. Everybody had everything they needed. There was no class distinction, There were neither rich nor poor people. They gave to each other and lived in abundance. The living cosmic laws of brotherhood replaced the dogmatic religions and laws. People did not know labor. Rather, they contributed joyfully to the community with their personal achievements. Each individual's talents were encouraged. The understanding of both the inner spiritual worlds and the material outer worlds enabled the archetypes, the risen masters of wisdom, to live amongst humans and to teach them the great mysteries and initiation steps of the temple. The simplicity of the universal knowledge of the five elements, earth, fire, water, air, and the cosmic ether, formed the basis of a global sustenance. Humans still recognize that they're a part of God on earth and that nothing exists separately from God. They were conscious that if they were a part of the creational spirit which had been materializing for millions of years, they had to possess in themselves dormant but almighty powers waiting to be awakened. In mystery schools, step by step, they learnt to rise to a God-human consciousness. No one prayed to a separate God. They still remembered that they were fallen and incarnated angels who had to attend the school of life and be reborn until mastering and living through any conceivable experience. Until the time came when they would ascend to higher dimensions of consciousness. The masters of wisdom knew the secret of the expanding and contracting of the cyclic cosmos. In the Indian Vedic texts, it was described as the inhaling and exhaling of God. The expansion of the cosmos from the source was called the Omega cycle, since everything diverged from the source. The further the Milky Way and its suns moved away from the source, the weaker their connection to the spiritual source whence everything comes. This means that all life in spiritual decline or descent to lower dimensions slips into the third dimension of the solid material universe. Atlantis and its race were still anchored in the fourth dimension. The masters of wisdom knew that at the peak of this civilization, the cosmic cyclic plan had anticipated that the souls would move down into the third dimension in order to totally experience the forgetting of their divine source and to live through the so-called Dark Age. Because if we had precise clues, if there were clues in history books about particular cultures, advanced cultures which were destroyed, then we'd have dates. Then we would know that these things are factual, not mythological. But because we only have mythological clues, we're a bit up in the air. For my part, I'm completely convinced that advanced cultures must have existed. I am convinced because throughout my travels, I filmed and photographed many incredible things on this earth. Amongst them places like Puma and Tuku. These are enormous plateaus which are prefabricated building sections, revealing a level of technology that could never have come from our developing technology. It must have come from a prior civilization, obviously more advanced than ours. Something like an advanced culture can be proved on the basis of photographic evidence, as well as the mythological material. So far, human beings had experienced a divinely guided matriarchy. The Dark Age experienced the birth of a patriarchy based on personal human will and saw the origin of the ego. The third dimension was induced by a polar shift. The magnetic web of the Earth was damaged, and entire continents sank in a gigantic oceanic catastrophe. But before this occurred, the Masters of Wisdom brought the knowledge of humankind to safety into the pyramids. They did not preserve written texts, but built the pyramids with mathematical precision, using a universal language which can only be deciphered when humankind leaves the cycle of the third dimension, enters the fourth again, and then returns to the fifth dimension. The masters warned the chosen people of a great catastrophe and sent the pupils and the chosen people to safer lands in order to act as light bearers for humanity on its journey of forgetting. Today we still find artifacts and evidence of this incredible civilization, of its spiritual knowledge, of its ancient people and mythology. The masters also prophesied that they would return after humanity had lived through the Dark Age. Once love, wisdom, and power are reunited, they will come back to establish a new school of wisdom. During this lowest phase, the extraterrestrials with their higher consciousness could only act as observers and guardians of evolution. Some of them left the planet and went back to Venus and the Pleiades. Another part withdrew into underground cities in the inner dimension of the hollow earth, known amongst other names as Shambhala, Eden, and Agartha. Through the polar shift, the outer layer of the earth was negatively polarized, hence the inner world of Agartha, meaning the Garden of Eden, was separated from the outer worlds. In a symbolic sense, the outer human being was driven from paradise. They used time, consciousness, and gravitational barriers to seal the entrance gates of the golden cities.